The Alabama Crimson Tide Pro Day has just happened, and we need to talk about it because there were a lot of dudes that are going to be making headways in the NFL draft. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. So hop down to the comments and let me know what individuals you think impressed you the most in today's Alabama Pro Day. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification because I do constant college football content. Player reviews, film analysis, talk style videos like this, and I'm on my push to 5,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. And if you did enjoy the video, be sure to like and comment down below because that really does go a long ways in helping content creators like myself get picked up by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's talk about Alabama's Pro Day. And I suppose we'll start on the offensive side of the ball, considering that was the vaunted unit for the Alabama Crimson Tide this year. And there were a few guys whose draft stock either stayed the same or increased without even doing anything today. And those three guys are Jalen Waddle, DeVonta Smith, and Najee Harris. Now, Najee Harris is an interesting one today because he was supposed to be on a flight last night from DFW to Birmingham in order to be there for his teammates working out today. Because of the bad weather that we experienced in the DFW Metroplex last night, that flight ended up getting canceled. And, most people would understandably just call in and say, hey guys, good luck tomorrow. I wish I could be there. I'll be there on the next one because Alabama is having multiple pro days. It's not like this is the only one. That's another thing I really like Alabama's doing is that they're having multiple pro days. And that just really goes to show the depth at which the Crimson Tide are willing to get their guys worked out to go to the NFL. That's an awesome thing this coaching staff is doing, and it's going to allow for the most players to benefit from the period of not having a true evaluation process. So hats off to the Crimson Tide in doing that. That's really awesome. But Najee understandably could have stayed back in the DFW area and had every excuse for not going, and nobody would have said anything. That would have been a non-factor. Instead, he hopped in his car and drove 9 hours through the night to be on campus for his teammates at a day where he wasn't going to work out. And like I already said, this isn't the only Alabama Pro Day. He could have just skipped this one and gone to the one that I believe is scheduled for next Tuesday, but that's the type of character individual Najee Harris is and the growth that he experienced from his first year at Alabama till the end. And I have constantly said there's maybe no player in college football that made more money by coming back than Najee Harris, and that's a tall order considering how good he was the year before. But Najee made a ton of money coming back this year because you might point to a ETN being faster than Najee, but I don't think that there's a running back in this year's draft that is as complete as Najee Harris and that can catch the ball out the backfield as well as Najee can. I've said it a bunch. Najee reminds me of a blend between Le'Veon Bell and Alvin Kamara, and that is terrifying. But also DeVonta Smith and Jalen Waddle. Neither guy worked out, and there's no reason for any of them to do so. Now, DeVonta Smith has already said he's not going to next week, so we don't have to worry about him. Jalen Waddle, a lot of people were disappointed that he didn't run his 40, and y'all, we have to understand that one of the things that is separating Jalen Waddle from all the other receivers in this draft is his vertical speed and his burst. And coming off of that ankle injury, I understand he played in the national championship, but it's one thing to be able to run a route. It's another thing to try and run a timed 40-yard dash. Jalen Waddle knows and is smart enough to realize that if he runs a 40 that is not where he likes it to be, that will be used against him come draft time, and he wants to remain completely healthy in order to deliver a 40 he will be proud of, and that makes complete sense to me. But now let's talk about the guys that did work out today and that did show something. Mac Jones was very impressive, and what I really liked from Mac Jones is he did a lot of throws at a very high tempo, and he did everything that was asked of him. These NFL guys, they tried to pressure Mac into more throws, and Mac did it with a smile from ear to ear and did it at a very high pace. He wasn't getting a break. He was throw after throw after throw and very good throws. That was the one thing I really liked is the pace he did the throws at and the quality of throws. You have to be happy with Mac Jones's pro day, especially when you factor in the 40 time and the vertical. A 4.83 unofficial 40 is better than I think most of us expected, and the vertical is something that we were all kind of pleasantly surprised by. But Mac Jones is solidifying himself as a first-round quarterback. There is no doubt about that, but I was really, really impressed with him going out there and continuously throwing passes, even well after his scheduled 50 or 40. I forget which it was, but he went well past that, and it was the timing and pace at which he was doing it. There was no break. It was throw, 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 all different types of throws. That's really elite. It showed those NFL guys what his arm can do when he's under stress, and he showed everything. He didn't miss a beat. That was really great. On the offensive side, Alex Leatherwood, another guy, I think he increased his stock. Now, there are some really good tackles in this draft, so where Alex Leatherwood goes, that's going to be really interesting, but he really showed a lot today, especially his burst. That was really impressive. Alex Leatherwood showed a lot of burst coming out of his sets. I do wish they would have allowed more sets in variations. It was a lot of RPO style stuff, although not super surprised, but I suppose that's why they have multiple pro days. Hopefully next one we can see some more basic type stuff, a bit more depth to Alex Leatherwood's game, because when you watch the film, the depth is there. It's just a lot of these scouts are going to want to see that, and that was one of the things talked about. But in the end, just watch the film. He's got everything you need, especially watch the film against LSU when you want to talk about his burst off the line. Really, really elite stuff. But maybe the most impressive individual of Alabama's pro day was Patrick Surtain II. My goodness me. Pat Surtain came out there and ran a 40 that some people have said, unofficially of course, is anywhere between a 4.35 and a 4.45. That's where these NFL guys had him on his first one. Now, a lot of people said, okay, well, you hit that one. Go ahead and ride it off into the sunset. You already proved you're sub 4.5. That's what everybody was worried about. Instead of doing that, he kept doing more drills. And, oh yeah, he just backed a 4.4 with another 4.440. And that is huge because it shows he can replicate that great time. And even though it was unofficial, it was still a 4.440. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. It's 4.4, period. Right? It could be 4.41. It could be 4.47. All I care is that it was a 4.4 and he was able to replicate that. That's huge. A 39-inch vertical at 6'2" with really long arms and a 10-foot broad jump. Yeah, that's really impressive. Mix that with that 4.440. And then when you watched him on his position drills, when they were trying to get him to do a bit more off technique, because at Alabama he played a lot of press man and they were asking him to do some off technique. And when they lined him up on the hash marks and did the drill where they want to see the fluidity in your hips, he was there. He stayed on that hash mark through every twist and turn and then flipped and found the football. His draft stock, I don't know how much it could have improved considering he was already considered to be a top 10 pick, but I think today he absolutely, no questions asked, solidified himself as the number one cornerback in this year's NFL draft. At least he's my number one cornerback. You know, Farley's great, but there's injury concerns about Farley. Horn is an athletic freak, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, Patrick Surtain is as coached up as any defensive back in the nation. I would argue much more coached up than any defensive back in the nation. Is physical as can be. For those of you that watched his pro day, my goodness, you saw him. He looked more like a linebacker than a corner. Ran a 4.440 with a 39-inch vertical, a 10-foot broad jump, and his 6'2", 200 plus. Yeah, someone in the top 10 is going to be very lucky to get him. But let me know who y'all were most impressed with on Alabama's pro day. This is only the first one. We're going to be coming back and taking a look at more of these. But I was blown away by Patrick Surtain. We know he has the technique. We knew all of that. And we know he's an athletic guy. But goodness gracious me, to see those numbers, his draft stock is cemented and even he rose because I think there were some questions about who's cornerback one. I don't know that there are those questions anymore. As great as Horn is as an athlete, Pat is so developed in his technique. And I think that aside from being a cornerback with a super high ceiling, he's also the cornerback with the highest floor as well. And that's really good for a GM because it's not only a potential amazing pick, it's a very safe pick. That's what you got to like about Patrick Surtain. We didn't see guys such as Dylan Moses, and we're going to be tracking that, seeing what he can do on his pro day, and we're going to be following this, but I can't wait to see what y'all thought. Who impressed you the most at Alabama's pro day? That's it. See ya.